Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Ben, for a very, very warm, probably undeserving introduction. So look, I want to talk to you a little bit today about URI, being a global interfaith organisation that's looking to promote opportunities for people from different cultures, different ethnic groups, different religious groups, to really get to know each other fundamentally. And look, that might not seem like a very grand ideal, but the reality is people are in many different parts of the world committing acts of violence against each other in the name of difference. And it's something here in Australia that, look, I mean, if we talk about direct violence, maybe not, but we have extreme problems with institutional violence in this country. But in other parts of the world, I meet in my work every day people who have survived, people who have lost members to protracted conflicts on the basis of religion. And I've just come back from India from a week-long training in Kerala on peace and conflict transformation. And my family hails from Kerala a long time ago. And being there in Kerala in the presence of a woman named Nasima, and Nasima is a woman from the western part of India, from Gujarat. Right? Nasima is a very entrepreneurial woman. She started up her own micro-enterprise in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad. She's married, she has 3 sons, and Nasima was also in Gujarat in 2002. In 2002, I guess a protracted incidence of violence happened across the state of India. And initially started with a group of pilgrims of one religion who were set on fire. A whole bunch of people died. And in response to that, the members of that group undertook a series of acts of violence all across the state of Gujarat against Nasima's group. Nasima's Muslim, and the pilgrims who were killed that day on that train were Muslim. And the state of Gujarat has taken a really, really long time to recover. And when I was there in Kerala, thinking about my interfaith work and how I really wish more people would come to our events, I actually got to meet Nasima and hear her story about why she gets involved in interfaith. And she gets involved in interfaith because for her it's a matter of life and death. And it was a matter of life and death. And in India, people always say, oh, look, we all live side by side together all the time and it's fine. And it's true, it is fine a lot of the times. But if we don't think about the importance of actually getting to know each other and reflecting on those relationships, when the time comes, when push comes to shove, when violence is incited, we forget about those relationships, and people do it all the time. And to bring that example back to Australia, look, again, we don't necessarily have violence on the basis of religion in Australia, and we don't have it, yes, people aren't killing each other in the street. True and good. Obviously, that's a great thing. But we do have a lot of incidents of verbal violence, physical acts of intimidation, a lot of abuse happening online and in public spaces, and that is a reality here in Australia. And it's a reality in Australia because a lot of the global conflicts are local conflicts for Melbourne, and they're local conflicts because Melbourne is one of the world's most culturally, religiously and linguistically diverse countries in the world. So when you have, groups from, that are currently in a protracted state of violence, say in the Middle East, and those groups meet here, that is often in a state of violence. And that's a really unfortunate thing. So what URI tries to do, we try to think long-term. So say there is an act of violence, right? And I'm going to pick, something to do with Israel and Palestine because it's a very topical thing, and it's one of those issues that does cause a lot of discord in different parts of the community. So in previous interfaith work that I've been involved in, there are groups that do this kind of bridge building work between two groups, and then when something happens, nothing happens. So that means that when some sort of act of violence happens overseas and people become upset here because the diaspora is local, literally the groups that organise the interfaith work don't do anything in response to the violence that happens. And I think that's a real shame. I think if we are spending a lot of money organising initiatives for people to get to know each other, we should be bringing people together after acts of violence to reaffirm our relationships with each other. And that is one of the things that URI tries to do. We try to focus on creating opportunities for people to get to know each other as individuals, as Leonie, as Nivy, as Hannah, as Robbie. That's it. We start here in a peaceful room. Nothing's right now, like nothing's going to happen to us outside, hopefully, fingers crossed, unless we're careless when we cross the road. You know, but we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen next year. There are people in this room who are survivors of extreme forms of violence, done on the basis of race, done on the basis of religion. And that is a very problematic world we live in. And sometimes we forget. So with URI, we do very much try and focus on building those individual relationships. And often it's over food. And when I was younger and did a lot of interfaith work, I used to get very tired of what I called tea and biscuit interfaith work. And it was, you know, a bunch of old people, Buckdale will forgive me, but it's, you know, quite often what we call tea and biscuit interfaithing. And we're just like, this is exhausting, this is boring. But 8 years later, I've calmed down a little bit. And I understand the importance of those relationships as long as we continue to affirm them even in difficult times. And that's what URI does all over the world. So after Nasima's experience, this was way before she joined URI, going back to Ahmedabad in Gujarat, we were learning about peace building at this training. So Nasima, in 2002, her father's shop was attacked. She had family members killed. Okay, distant family members who were killed in Gujarat in the months that followed and the violence that followed, communal violence they call it. So Nasima was exhausted from the violence. This was otherwise a city, urban area where people interacted, Hindus and Muslims, Jains. It didn't matter, everyone was just Gujarati, and we always joke about the Gujaratis, they have too much sugar. So, you know, everyone's sitting around with their sugary food. Everyone interacted with each other. They were very strongly bound by their culture, and religion wasn't a dividing factor. So Nasima, after a few months of the insecurity, decided that she wanted to do something. She was tired of being confined to the part of the town where she was for fear, and she decided she wanted to do a public act of a demonstration of support. So the first thing she did was identify allies in the Hindu part of the town now, where she thought, maybe I'll just go have a conversation with them. We used to be friends. So she went over, at probably great risk to her own safety, with another few women that she knew, and approached other women she knew and said, hey, we just want our kids to walk around safely. We want to try and start normalizing going back to the way things were. So with this group of other women, they started a flower campaign. So Muslim women would go up to other women and give them a flower. Women of different religions, different backgrounds, just as a show of support. And that's how her initiative started. And after that, she got allies on board, women who were Hindu who said, yeah, this is a great idea. I'm so sick and tired of this violence. Why can't we do something about it? And then they started a procession where they started walking together, women holding flowers, walking together, giving them to strangers. And that was one woman's response to a series of acts of violence that shaped her life. But she chose a peaceful situation. And one of the things that URI will try and say, if we have these kind of groups where we're all different people of different backgrounds coming together, there will always be acts of violence in the world. There always will be. But we can make a choice to each other to come back to this room and choose a peaceful way. We can choose to affirm our friendships over some sort of political ideology or some sort of religious ideology. So that's very much what we try and do. In Australia, we're very new. We've only been around, I guess, as an organisation with a paid presence for almost 2 years. And we've got, members working with different religious groups to promote common action for the preservation of the environment. That's a big focus with many of our groups. We have other groups that focus on women's conversations, so creating safe spaces for women, Aboriginal women, migrant women, all sorts of women to come together and just share stories, because in a lot of cultures, women aren't given spaces to speak. And that's really great work by the former trustee of URI. And then we have other groups of women who do cultural dance performances to celebrate the sacred feminine. And I might put in touch with one of the ladies at the back who is speaking about an interest in the divine feminine. And then we have a group like Cultural Infusion or One God, which are large organizations or organizations with ambitious goals looking to promote intercultural understanding. And for URI, one of our major principles is we offer collaboration, not competition. So with our other interfaith partners, and I think I've said this from the day I met you all, we're not here to compete with you, we're here to work with you. And I really want to thank Ben, because this was Ben's idea. I know URI is down as a supporting partner, and it's true we are. But part of my job is to recognise a good idea and just support it. So this was such a wonderful idea. Thank you for having the vision, and URI will support you. So to our other interfaith partners in the room and non-interfaith partners, especially in the work of Mungo Man and raising awareness about, you know, this vital part of Australian history that has gone neglected for way too long. Aboriginal culture, in many ways, to me, it was explained to me in 2011. I went to my first URI event in Malaysia, and there was an Aboriginal woman named Rachel Shields from Central Australia, and she said, the problem with Australia is that we ask immigrants to swear their loyalty on the 26th of January. That's the day Australia chooses its new Australians to say that we are committed to Australia. And I don't need to explain to you the problem with that. It's like putting your hand on a pile of blood and saying, I swear allegiance to Australia. And Rachel's idea was, Aboriginal culture has always been a story of pluralism. And as Alan said, we don't, Aboriginal people aren't saying we own anything, but you know, dreaming is an inclusive process, the story of Aboriginal dreaming of creation. And Rachel's idea was, you know, if we could welcome to country people who come here from all over the world, celebrate, use Aboriginal heritage as a form of welcome to people who come from across the seas, that would be an Australia that's far more inclusive of all of the people who have migrated here, because at the end of the day, you know, for most of us, we have ancestors who didn't come from here. So thank you very much to Jim and to David and to Ben, to Peter and to Alan for being here and for speaking. And in terms of where we might go, URI is happy to support anyone who tries to host such initiatives, to provide any sort of organisational support to make sure the conversations like this can keep happening.